really, really excited to kick off our whole series with Lauren Joskowitz, who is the editorial director at MyFitnessPal. Lauren, welcome. We're so excited to get to talk to you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to help you kick this off. This is awesome.
Yes. So we were chatting a little before, and like most great marketers, huge book fan. So would love to hear a little bit like what are you reading these days? What are some or like any good book recommendations we should be aware of?
Yes. So everyone's going to think I'm a super nerd with this answer. I will say that I went through like the phase of self-help books and I read like every single self-help book until it started sounding like every self-help book said the same thing. And then went deep into my science phase and read like all about the microbiome and bacteria and epigenetics and loved it. And then I was getting a little tired of such like brainy content all the time. And my best friend had been really ragging me about getting into fantasy. And like, I am just not a fantasy person. Like, sci-fi shows usually aren't my thing. But I read Fourth Wing and was like, oh, apparently I like fantasy. So the Fourth Wing series, it's like Harry Potter meets Hunger Games, but with dragons. So I would recommend that one. And then I got very into the Court of Thorns and Roses series. Read all 5 books in like 6 weeks. It was about 3,000 pages. Literally couldn't stop. Hurt my marriage a little bit from reading so much, but it's fine. Those were fantastic. So I'm very deep in the Sarah J. Maas universe right now. It's a journey.
Amazing. I've not finished A Court of Thorn and Roses, but I've heard a lot about Fourth Wing. So that is just another reason to put that on the list. So that is awesome.
It's nice to escape sometimes,
A
into a
hundred.
different world.
Um, this is the one downside of Composely having this beautiful, bright purple indigo as our color is the color is always very, so I just took that off so that I'm not Violet from Willy Wonka, for our whole discussion. But you post, so actually part of how we got here, just to give the audience a little background, you posted a really eloquent LinkedIn post a couple weeks ago about how you and the team kind of sat down to evaluate the MyFitnessPal blog and kind of revamp it. You launched about 14 years ago. You obviously have been with the company for about 6 months. And everyone was like, okay, what we were doing 14 years ago might not be what we need to kind of hit the next level of what we're looking for in 2024. And I feel like in the world of AI and so much social content, like blogs are kind of this thing that either we do it because we feel like we have to, or it's just kind of there. And I thought it was so refreshing to see such a prominent brand, really take the time to focus on the brand and blog and come up with a great strategy. So that's really our goal for today is just to better understand, the why behind that, a little bit of the process and the how. And ultimately, I know it's only been a short kind of revamp, but any, results or things that we can help celebrate with you, that's kind of the roadmap for today. So with that, just to kind of kick off, like, how did this conversation come to be? Like, were you brought in because of the conversation and they wanted a really strong editorial leader to kick it off, or was that something you kind of brought to the table when you first joined?
Yeah, it was definitely something that they were looking for when they had the editorial director role open. My CMO and VP of Global Marketing really believe in content marketing, and they believe that there is a space for us to help with the evolution of the MyFitnessPal brand and turning it right now, a lot of people see it as a tool, and we really want to become more of a lifestyle brand and a trusted resource. And a blog can help with that. So while the blog was just one piece of what they were looking for in the greater editorial director role, it was something that was really needed because I don't know if anyone on this call had seen the blog, but it literally had been designed like in 2010. And the user experience was really brutal. There were so many ads all over the page. Like it just kind of in the evolution of MyFitnessPal when they went with Under Armour for a while and then divested from Under Armour, like there just wasn't a lot of TLC for the blog. And I will say, especially, in 2024, people are a lot more critical of brands. and they don't give their trust very easily. And so it doesn't look great when you go to a brand's, website and then you navigate to their blog and it doesn't look great. It looks quite janky. It looks like you're being just like sold a lot of cheap ads, which, mind you, we're in the health and wellness realm and didn't align with our point of view and beliefs in the health and wellness industry. So it can really hurt that brand trust initially when people are considering you. And so that was kind of low hanging fruit as within, the first 6 months, blog, newsletter, and then our in-app plans are the things that we really wanted to evaluate and audit and find opportunities to refresh that content and put it out into the world in a way that would have a greater impact on both our members and also passively nurturing potential future members.
That's amazing. We're obviously pretty large marketing team, lots of kind of different distribution channels. How does the blog fit into the marketing mix or kind of the marketing team at MyFitnessPal?
Yeah, so we have a marketing team of about 30 people, but I would say that everyone in the marketing team is actually fairly new within like the last 2 years. So we're still kind of figuring things out. It's a work in progress. But I do think that, the value of a blog, there's many reasons to have a blog. And one of them is it provides you with content that you can repackage across all your different channels. So our blog informs our newsletter strategy, which also informs our social media channels. It can inform our paid media. If we see a blog post that's performing really well, or we post a testimonial that we see a lot of engagement and interaction with and positive reaction to, we could use that testimonial and paid. So it really serves as an area to create content for repackaging, but also for testing. Testing both for our other marketing efforts, like, hey, how's our audience reacting to high protein? Really good. So maybe we should create more features in our tool for high protein, or release a high protein nutrition plan, or just market about how MyFitnessPal can help you achieve a higher protein diet. So you can get a lot of insights about your target audience as well as the members that you're already serving. And it's also, I know this wasn't your question, but I'm going to add it because I don't think a lot of product companies think about it this way. The most expensive resource in like a tech company is engineering. But a tool like a blog can be used for testing hypotheses and different experiences before you really invest in trying those experiences out in your app. So an example for us was a macro calculator. We launched a macro calculator on our WordPress blog site. It was scrappy, nothing super fancy. We worked with our internal RDs to get the algorithm and our WordPress engineers at Clio websites to build the macro calculator. We promoted it via an in-app message to our users, and we saw huge interest and engagement. So we were able to do that in like a 2-week timeline, launch this macro calculator for March, which was Nutrition Awareness Month or National Nutrition Month. And that then told us that there would be a lot of interest if we were to incorporate some kind of macro calculator into our tool. So a blog can also really serve for production purposes and like future product mapping, road mapping, by testing different experiences and hypotheses before you actually invest time and energy in building those into the product that you're putting out into the world.
I love that example because it's such a great use case of an enterprise brand using the resources but not having those silos between departments, and leveraging the fact that marketing can be maybe a little more scrappy than an entire product team to get that market feedback. So I love just seeing an example of not the silos and like really good cross-functional awareness. And I'm sure, to your point, like that was probably really helpful in getting some great engagement on the marketing goals as well.
Yeah, I will say we launched that macro calculator before we relaunched the blog. And looking back, I'm like, lessons learned, because that would have been a very natural, awesome opportunity for people to discover in an organic way that we had this great resource. But hey, you live and you learn, and the next tool that we test, everyone will figure it out.
So that's a great transition to, where did you start with a blog revamp? You mentioned a lot on like UX and the actual design, but then also the content, how did you kind of approach and which things took priority?
Yeah. I mean, of course, the first thing was I did a very like medium to high level audit of what is this blog? Not only everyone knew that the user experience wasn't great, but what is the content that is behind just like how pretty it looks on a desktop or mobile experience. And so I dug really deep into, what content was performing, what was the engagement on that content, how was it driving to the app store, were people bouncing, how long were people spending on the page, and finding those opportunities to share with the C-suite and my manager as to where I think we should invest the most money and align with them. I was very lucky that they wanted to invest in content marketing. They didn't know how or how much or in what areas. And so I helped drive that, but I at least didn't have that hurdle of trying to like convince too hard that we should invest in this. It was something that was needed. It's either like, you got to shut this thing down because it just doesn't look good for the brand, or we need to revamp it. But blogs can be revamped in a fairly reasonable, price tag. So after we got alignment on like what is our goal and our content strategy, which ultimately is to become the most trusted source online for nutrition and weight loss content. It was a two-pronged approach. So on one hand, we needed to work on doing a more granular SEO and content audit. In my medium to high level audit, I really found that there was a lot of content cannibalization. So for example, the topic like how to eat for better sleep, we had like 17 articles about the same thing, and Google doesn't know where to be driving people if you have the same content so many times. And the quality of a lot of content wasn't great. A lot of it was very outdated science. And so on one side, we wanted to work with a company like Composely to really be our partners in that SEO and content audit. At the same time, we hired a website and WordPress engineer company, Clio Websites, to do more of the back-end technical audit around like our site's performance, speed, technical SEO. So that was all happening kind of over here. And we were working with those partners to get those reports and the results from those reports. And at the same time, I kicked off the design portion of it. And that involved getting with our creative team. We did an awesome like competitive analysis where everyone kind of brought websites that they liked, and we talked about what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them, where should we pull inspiration, and kind of pulled out different learnings. We knew that we just needed to start fresh, so we didn't look too much at our site anymore, but we went through the design process simultaneously as the SEO and content audit process. That way, we could do this in a fast timeline. I really would say, it took me 2 months to get to a point where I was ready to lead this project. And then we turned it around in 4 months, which is like pretty fast to do. And I think that really comes from being able to manage both workflows at the same time. And maybe it was a little bit of luck that they ended up like crossing when we wanted to relaunch. So that's how we got started.
That is definitely a lot. And I like that you mentioned there's maybe some luck or some things that can kind of, help drive that. But it seems like one of the successes was realizing like it sounds like, design, you didn't want to outsource that. You guys, I think really, it sounds like wanted to own that, use your own creative team internally, but then also looked for other folks to come in and drive things forward so that you guys had the internal time to kind of focus on the things you really want to make sure you kept your hands on.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just me and the creative team. Like we brought customer happiness into the conversation to get their input about, when we're even just redesigning the website and thinking through our information architecture, like what does our navigation look like? What are those topics? How do we want to reorganize all of the different content we have? And when you come to our homepage, what should you automatically be able to say, this is what MyFitnessPal is about? We wanted their input and like, what do you hear from our users? What do you see in the community forums the most? Because they're on the pulse of that more than I am or creative is. So we leverage customer happiness as well as our user research team. And we're lucky that we have that many people who have such a direct tie to our consumers or just the general population that is interested in nutrition and weight loss. But I really think like it's a cross-functional effort. And I think we did a really good job. Did we get it 100% right? Probably not, but you got to launch. I always say good, better, best. So we got a really good blog relaunch out there, and now we're learning, and we, in 3 months, or I guess now it's 6 weeks, plan to regroup, do kind of like some sentiment research. How are people liking this? How are they using it? And figure out what phase 2 is.
That's awesome. So you mentioned you yourself came in pretty fresh. A lot of the other folks on the team maybe hadn't been there when the blog was launched. What benefits do you feel like that gave you to come in with kind of that clean slate, fresh perspective when looking at attacking this project?
Well, something that one of our directors of product said in like a company-wide meeting that has stuck with me is fresh eyes fade fast. And I loved that because when you come into a new company, you have so much energy and excitement, and really you see like all of this needs to be fixed, right? Like there's no bias, there's no historical background. And I just leaned into that. Like I won't lie, like I was met with some like hesitation, like we've tried this before and it never works, or these are the reasons we can't do it. And I just kind of didn't let no be the answer. It was always yes, but, instead of yes, and it was yes, but. Like, I think you really have to push people, and not just when you're new. Like, try to harness this superpower throughout your tenure with a company, is just challenge. Just because something was the way it was in the past doesn't mean we can't overcome those obstacles now. So I hear you. That's what historically happened in the past. Why do you think that happened? And what could we do differently? Or what areas were left untouched? What rock was left uncovered that might enable us to create the change we're looking to create? So I think like leading with curiosity, and yes, but making sure you hear everyone out, but challenging them to lean in and find a solution and making it fun. And, I think it's a compliment when you ask people to join a conversation in a brainstorm and you proactively want to include them. And so that can help to change attitudes or hesitancy towards helping with a project.
Well, and you kind of jumped to my part B of the question, is for someone who's maybe been in their seat for a minute or was there when the blog did launch, many moons ago, how can you snap yourself back into that fresh eyes or, and not fall into, well, it's been up there and it's running and it's doing enough, to get us where we need to be.
Or even the attitude of like, this isn't a priority. This isn't my priority. It's not where my KPIs lie. This isn't going to impact my work. Because you will hear that, and that's fair. But I do think, especially in a remote situation, making it fun is important. And so if you are in a position where you're like, there's just this thing that I don't want to touch and I've been procrastinating on it, I would recommend that you set up a 60-minute brainstorm. You use Figma or Mural or Lucid Spark to design like a fun exercise where everyone has very small pre-work before, but say it's for a blog. You bring stakeholders into the same meeting, and their pre-work is everyone add your favorite websites or blogs or anything on the web that you love visiting to this workplace that we're going to be brainstorming in. People love to share where they're finding inspiration. And then you go through an exercise. If everyone goes through and explains, I would limit it, like your top 2 or something like that. Everyone goes through and explains like, this is what I like about this. This is what I don't like about this. You, as leading the meeting, should take notes of that and find like the common threads. And then you start a workspace where you start envisioning what the new experience could be for you. I think that's what makes it fun. So going back to your question, how do you, if you're already in a place where you're procrastinating, get that creative spark? I would say start looking externally. I don't even just mean looking externally at your competitors. I mean at the places you frequent on the web or the brands you love. What are they doing? I love to look at fintech. I think fintech is really innovative and does really interesting things. And I'm always thinking like, what would be our spin on that? That just happened. Walmart released a video, Moms Answering Moms. And I'm like, what would be our spin on this? This is super fun. It's super relatable. So I think getting inspired outside of your lane of thinking, and, just allowing yourself to imagine a little bit. The other important part is like really setting aside time to do that. Like when you're getting 8,000 Slacks a day and pinged with problems all around, it's really hard to do. So I would say get up early in the morning, get some sunlight, go for a 20-minute walk, and then sit down for a structured like 60 minutes time for yourself to just look at the things you love engaging with and who's doing it really good, and think about like what would be your brand spin on it can really like help to spark that creativity.
That is already just so many really great actionable takeaways. I think it's so what you said. It's so easy to get distracted by the fires or the problems or the challenges. And yes, those are all, unfortunately, slash fortunately, it's why we all have jobs. Those are always going to exist. There's always going to be another fire, but taking that really dedicated time and just giving yourself that freedom. I encourage everyone on the call. I want to do that now. Next week, I'm going to like block out a morning and just,
I mean, that's where the passion comes from, right? And once your passion extinguishes, you're very close to burnout. So you have to like intentionally make time, and it will just make you a greater asset and a more strategic thinker, even if it's not stuff that can really happen anytime. I share ideas in my team's Slack all the time, and they're like, Lauren, not possible. And I'm like, yet not possible yet, but it
yes,
also just like gets
right.
other people's creative juices flowing, and it helps, bring things to life a little bit, because nobody likes to just put out fires all day long.
I love that. Well, on the point of fires, what were some maybe unexpected challenges or the fires in this project, and maybe any advice and kind of how you put them out?
I mean, I think, this going back to our previous conversation, a challenge was just getting people on board. Like nobody really wanted to work on the blog. Like product's more fun. I get it. I like working on the product too. So getting people excited and to lean in and to be a part of this project, and really intentional thought about how you lead a project like this is important, because it actually ended up being like such an awesome experience that has bonded me with different people within the company in a really positive way, in a way that I don't think without this work stream would have happened. And so being really intentional about like, how are you going to bring people into this? How are you going to lead this work stream so that it's very collaborative and efficient, and everyone just feels good at the end of the day about the work they did? That was probably my biggest challenge, since I didn't have to get over the hurdle of convincing my bosses to invest in content marketing. Other than that, I mean, honestly, it sounds terrible, but it sounds great. It went pretty smoothly. I actually think our challenges are ahead. Like our blog looks great, but it's not anything like earth shattering, but we can't stop here. Like it wasn't just about the relaunch. We've improved the user engagement. Our engagement numbers are up. Our average reading time is up. Our click-through rate to the App Store is up. So we have early indicators that it's working. But if we really want to be the most trusted source for nutrition and weight loss on the internet, we have a lot of work to do. Even our content, like we've changed our voice a little bit, and we're starting to head in a new direction for what our content looks like and how we package it. Like I'm not satisfied yet. And that's on me. That's on me to figure out like, what does this look like? And then how do I communicate it properly to my teams, to our freelance writers, to our freelance editors, to our partners, Composely. And so I actually think the challenges are ahead. I think the relaunch is the easy part, and then figuring out how to keep that momentum up and continue scaling and growing within budget is the most challenging piece.
100%. You were giving us a little bit of a preview there, but early success rates or early indicators, what are some results that you can share?
Yeah, okay. So I wrote these down because I cannot remember them at the top of my head. So I'm going to talk about three buckets. So obviously SEO is a big goal for improving when we did the relaunch. So we literally launched April 4th. So these are very, very early. But our performance in search has improved month over month with a 9% increase in total clicks. We have a 2.4% increase in total impressions. So hopefully that's helping with brand awareness, and our average position in search rankings has increased 4%. From a design perspective, our views per user has increased 11%, which means we're really helping people go through that marketing funnel better, whether that means they're coming to the homepage and finding content that they're actually interested in and clicking through, or they're also then finding related content that's helping them go through that funnel journey. We've improved that so far. Our engagement rate is up 25%, which is exciting. And our average engagement time is also up 55%, which really shows that how we've repackaged our content. One of the biggest things that I have really stressed in this redesign is readability, which means being able to skim. The truth is people don't like sit and always read content. And so like leaning into bullet points, to listicles, to headlines, to kind of like summary boxes. We also added key highlights at the top. So like if you just want to come in and get the top key highlights and be out, you can do that. And so really like creating an experience where people can come get the content they need. We want them to continue their journey, but even if they feel like it was a really easy learning experience, hopefully they come back to us again. And that's all that passive relationship building. And then from a content strategy perspective, we are earning more visits from our members. That's going to be from like starting to create content that's more timely and more related to what they're looking for. And we're getting that traffic from our in-app news feed. So that has increased, I think, like 53% as well, month over month. So it's an indication that we're headed in the right direction.
Well, congratulations. Those are some big numbers. And, the SEO, especially for folks who maybe don't sit in the SEO, like 4% compared to 53%. But SEO takes a lot of time. It's normally a 3 to 6 month before you start seeing those. So the fact that there is already that inching up, and we just got out of a really big algorithm update at the end of March, and a lot of people have not seen that. I think, again, like it's a really good sign. So huge congrats to you and the MyFitnessPal team.
We couldn't have done it without Composely. Not like that. I know that's like a blatant advertisement, but I'm a team of one. The editorial team is a team of one plus my awesome editorial intern. And so I could not be doing a lot of the SEO work that needs to be done without Composely. So yeah, kudos to
I
you guys.
promise we did not talk about this.
She did not ask me to do that.
I know we're right at time. We did have a couple audience questions, so I know some folks might need to jump off, but just to kind of, kind of round us out, do you, how do you drive more people to your website blog beyond your own audience? So you do have this great app, you have to point, it sounds like that's where some of the immediate success of driving more folks, but where are some of the other channels that you look to drive more folks to consume blog content?
Our newsletter is huge. And right now we're actually our newsletter really only goes out to our database of members, past and present. So we're really working on some targeted newsletter campaigns. So like sign up for a 6-week series on gut health or what have you, that can bring people in. And again, I'm all about value first. So like, we're not sending them an email that makes them go to our blog to learn everything. But if you send valuable newsletters that they can open and they immediately get value out of it and they read it and they turn into week over week engaged readers, you can also then fill that with related content to help them on their journey and drive them to your blog. And I think like, I know we're running out of time. So I would say that's one of the biggest things. And you can put paid money behind those newsletters to get signups on social media. Also, LinkedIn has like sign up for our newsletter when people follow brands. And so I think like that using a newsletter to bring people into your funnel, and you can promote the newsletter across multiple channels, and then your blog content goes into that newsletter, you're getting new users into your CRM, and they're building a relationship with you. And over time, as they learn to trust you, they'll want to learn more, and the thread will pull through to your blog.
That I love that. And you gave us a lot of, I think, good ideas on how to do that earlier in the conversation as well, of like testing new products or creating, like, the calculator is just a great opportunity that I think a lot of people think of blogs as very static written content, but encouraging and including videos, calculators, tools, interactivity to make it feel more than just that written blog. I think then you can really leverage it across those different channels.
Yeah, just don't get stagnant. Look other places, see what other people are doing. You know, you could use Qualtrics to easily make quizzes, or Formidable in WordPress to make quizzes that feel personalized. They're not 100% personalized, but they're kind of like those personality tests. There's lots of different tools and experiences now and now with AI, you know, you can have tools on your blog that have some very unique experiences. So I think, like, think outside the box. Blue sky brainstorm, pretend there are no guardrails, and then see what you can actually push through in a good, better, best way.
That was that no better way to kind of sum up the conversation than some of those big takeaways. I did drop your LinkedIn in the chat for everyone. I know you're very active on LinkedIn, so be sure to connect and follow Lauren. And then next week, we're sitting down with the head of marketing at Fellow. So really excited for that conversation as well, and dropped the registration link if you have not signed up. But Lauren, thank you so much. Again, really appreciate the insight. Can't wait to follow along. I guess that's the third CTA. Go look at the blog for yourself. Like, go get some of those ideas from what MyFitnessPal is doing. And we're excited to kind of watch the journey and support you along the way.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you next week. Bye.